Right now, your cerebellum is running the background program that keeps you upright. It is coordinating every muscle in your body without you thinking about any of it. Remove it, and you are not paralyzed. Your muscles still work, but you cannot use them. Every movement you try becomes clumsy, shaking, and wrong. Walking becomes staggering. Reaching becomes missing. Speaking becomes slurring. Your brain sends the right signals. But without the cerebellum, they never arrive correctly. It is called the cerebellum, at the back of your brain, smaller than your fist. It contains more than half of all the neurons in your entire brain, and it controls everything you do without ever thinking about it. Second by second, here is what your body loses when the cerebellum is gone. The cerebellum sits at the very back and bottom of your brain, right at the back of your skull. It looks completely different from the rest of the brain, tightly folded, almost like a cauliflower. It makes up only about 10% of your brain's volume, but contains more than half of all its neurons. Think of it as the quality control department. The rest of the brain plans and sends instructions for movement. The cerebellum checks those instructions, adjusts them for precision, and makes sure every movement lands exactly right. Balance, posture, reaching, walking, eye movement, fine motor skills, all processed and corrected by the cerebellum. It also handles timing, knowing exactly when and how fast to move, and it stores motor memory, how to ride a bike, every skill you have ever practiced until it felt automatic. Playing an instrument, typing, driving, lives in the cerebellum.
How does the cerebellum know the right movement?
It compares what you plan to do with what your body actually did. Then it corrects the difference. Practice makes the correction smaller. Now, the cerebellum is removed. What happens the moment you try to move? Your muscles still receive signals from the motor cortex. They are not paralyzed. They can contract. But without the cerebellum to coordinate them, every movement is uncoordinated, unpredictable, and wrong. The medical word for this is ataxia. It means loss of coordination, and it is total. Try to walk, and you lurch and stagger. Your legs swing too wide. Your feet misjudge where the ground is. Try to reach for a glass, and your hand overshoots, or undershoots. It shakes more the closer it gets. This shaking that gets worse as you approach a target is called an intention tremor, specific to cerebellar damage. Try to speak, and the word slur. The muscles of the mouth, tongue, and throat are no longer coordinated.
Is cerebellar damage the same as being drunk?
Very similar. Alcohol slows the cerebellum, causing poor balance, slurred speech, and shaky movements like cerebellar damage. Eyes begin to drift and flicker. The cerebellum controls smooth eye movement. Without it, eyes oscillate. This eye flickering is called nystagmus. The eyes cannot hold a fixed gaze. Vision becomes blurred and unstable. Rapid, alternating movements become impossible. Turning the hand over and back, fails completely. Perhaps most devastating. You can no longer learn new motor skills. The filing cabinet for muscle memory is gone. Complete cerebellar removal is not compatible with survival, but cerebellar damage affects thousands of people. The most common causes: stroke affecting the cerebellar arteries, brain tumors, multiple sclerosis, and genetic ataxias. Some people are born without a cerebellum, a condition called cerebellar agenesis, and some of them can walk and talk, discovered accidentally on brain scans. These individuals compensate over a lifetime, but always with significant difficulty. For men, cerebellar damage affects physical performance severely. Coordination for sport, driving, manual work, all impacted. For women, cerebellar damage during or after pregnancy can affect breastfeeding coordination, fine motor care tasks, mobility, with intensive rehabilitation. Some people regain remarkable function. The brain can partially compensate over years of work, but the cerebellum itself does not regenerate. Any function recovered is the rest of the brain learning to partially compensate.
Can the brain recover after cerebellar damage?
Not fully, but it can adapt. Other brain areas help take over. With therapy, many people regain good function. Unlike the thyroid or kidneys, there is no medication that replaces what the cerebellum does. Rehabilitation is the treatment. Physiotherapy is the core treatment. Specific balance and gait exercises rebuild compensation pathways in the brain over time. Occupational therapy helps with daily tasks, eating, dressing, writing, rebuilding fine motor function through repetition. Speech therapy addresses Dysarthria, the slurred speech of cerebellar damage, through exercises that rebuild coordination. Some medications help specific symptoms. Clonazepam or gabapentin may reduce intention tremor. Baclofen can ease muscle stiffness. Devices help too. Weighted utensils reduce tremor during eating, mobility aid for walking, eye patches for double vision from Nystagmus. The cerebellum cannot be protected like the liver, but the conditions that damage it can often be caught or managed early. Stroke is the leading preventable cause of cerebellar damage. Managing blood pressure, cholesterol, and not smoking reduces risk. Warning signs of cerebellar stroke: sudden loss of balance, sudden slurred speech, sudden uncoordinated movement, sudden dizziness. Act fast. A cerebellar stroke is a medical emergency. The faster treatment begins, the less permanent damage results. If you have a family history of genetic ataxia, conditions like Friedreich Ataxia, genetic testing and early monitoring matter. Any new coordination difficulty, unexplained tremor, balance loss, or slurred speech should be investigated by a doctor promptly. 3 things about the cerebellum that most people never know. First, the cerebellum contains more neurons than the rest of the brain combined. Over 50 billion neurons in a structure smaller than your fist. Most people think the cerebral cortex is the most complex part. The cerebellum has it outnumbered by neurons by a ratio of 4 to 1. Second, being drunk is almost exactly what cerebellar damage feels like. Alcohol suppresses the cerebellum first. That is why drunk people stagger and slur. Third, some people are born with no cerebellum at all and live into adulthood, walking, talking, even studying at university, with extraordinary adaptation. Their cases reveal that the brain can compensate over a lifetime if it has to, but never perfectly. Coordination is always impaired, just not fatal. Right now, your cerebellum is correcting thousands of tiny errors in your movement every second without being asked. If this video changed how you think about your own brain, please subscribe. Every week we remove one more part. Leave a comment. Which brain structure or body part do you want us to remove next? See you next week.